Hello everybody and welcome. We're just going to wait a little bit longer and see if we get a few more people jump in. So bear with us. Oh, I can see some familiar names here of people that have dropped in applications. So good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Okie doke. I think we will probably get started now, and anyone else that wants to join can kind of jump in as we go along. So hello everyone, a very warm welcome to our Executive MBA virtual open day. It's really great to have you here, and also we're going to be welcoming a wonderful panel of speakers. Introductions, my name's Kirsty, I'm the marketing manager here at Learner, and I'll be hosting the event today. You'll see at the bottom of your screen there's a Q&A button. So as we go along today, please feel free to pop any questions that pop up to you or occur to you during the session in there, and we'll either answer them at the end if we've got time. If we don't have time, we will be sending out an email after the session today to everybody with a recording of the webinar and the answers to any questions we didn't get to. We're hoping to keep the session to an hour and a half today. We know your time is precious, and after almost a year now of meetings and events on Zoom, I think we're all a bit fed up of it. So we're going to try and rattle through this fairly quickly. First things first, I wanted to tell you a little bit about Learner. We were established 10 years ago by Professor Steve Davis. He's an expert in online learning, as well as consultant physician and a guest lecturer at the University of South Wales, which is where we are based in Cardiff in South Wales in the UK. Initially, the company focused on the growth of our diploma MSc brand, which offered entirely and still offers entirely online postgrad diplomas and MScs aimed at healthcare professionals, and we later moved into the business marketplace with the launch of our executive MBA programs, which is what we're here to talk about today. We offer a total of 8 different MBA programs, different pathways, so you can tailor your MBA to your chosen career. They take around 18 months to complete, with 12 months of online learning and a 6-month capstone project at the end, but we'll go into lots more detail about that shortly. So the running order of the event today is Lynsey, our head of admissions, will be up first, and she will talk through the admissions process, entry requirements for the course, and her top tips for a successful application. Then you will meet some of the faculty of our MBA course. Then we'll be chatting to our current student, Helen, about her experience so far studying an MBA with Learner. And we will hear from our student support team and find out all about their role and a little bit more about our learning platform, Moodle. We were actually hoping to do a demo of Moodle for this today, but as with all things technical, we've entered a little bit of a hiccup. The online learning platform is having a major update and it's not quite ready to be demoed yet. We could show you what we use currently, but as that would look quite different to what you'd experience if you join as a student in March, we thought it might be a better idea to send out a demo of the updated and improved learning platform to everyone that attends today by email as soon as it's ready to go, and I hope that's okay with all of you. And then finally at the end we'll have a quick run through of any questions that have been raised through the session. So without further ado, I'd like to give a very warm welcome to Lynsey, who's our head of admissions here at Learner. Hi, Lyns.
Hello.
Okay. First things first, I'd really like to know, what does your role entail?
So within admissions, we are the first point of contact for all potential students. We handle all of the applications that are made for the various EMBAs that we offer. We're here to ensure a fair, transparent and consistent admissions process. We provide support, advice to prospective students, and we work closely with the University of Gibraltar to ensure that all the applications that we receive meet the entry requirements, and we follow all the university's regulations.
Okie doke. So how does the application process actually work, from kind of how do they apply and what happens once they get accepted?
Once you've selected the course that you would like to study, there's a link on our website where you're able to start your application process with us. It's a very straightforward application. We would capture information about yourself, for example, your work experience or qualifications, reference details, and a personal statement. And then we will have a look at the application. If there's any missing documents, then we will come back to you. If we need any further information, again, we will come back to you. And then once we've got a complete application, we would submit that to the university for you.
Oh, fantastic. So let's touch on the requirements, qualifications, experience. What does someone need to be able to successfully apply for the MBA programme?
So typically, our students will hold an undergraduate degree with a minimum classification of a 2-1, and you also need to hold a minimum of 3 years managerial experience within the field that you're studying. So, for example, if it was our EMBA in marketing management, you would need 3 years management experience within the field of marketing. We do have some candidates who might not meet the entry requirements. They might not hold the undergraduate degree, but as long as you've got 10 years plus managerial experience within that field, then that's absolutely fine. You're encouraged to apply, and we may just ask you to undertake an assignment to show that you're able to work at the level 7 qualification.
Okay, great. So what kind of people might apply for an exec MBA?
So you're looking at your sort of your mid career professionals who hold the minimum of 3 years experience, and then they're looking to advance their careers.
Okay. And what about English? If someone's not got English as a first language, what do they need?
We do typically ask that you hold IELTS with an overall score of 6.5 and a minimum of 6 per band. If you don't hold the IELTS, then we are able to accept alternatives. So we do encourage you to contact us in admissions, and then we will be able to talk you through what alternatives we're able to accept.
Okay, brilliant. And what about the reference? Who does it need to be from? How long does it need to be?
So we ask for the details of 3 referees. These can be senior work colleagues, your employer, or former tutor. You're looking at writing approximately 250 words, and we'll ask them to confirm how long they've known you and what capacity. We'd ask them to just confirm what your role is and your different aspects of the job that you undertake.
So just a standard reference form.
Yeah, the same as a professional reference, really.
Okie doke. And does the applicant have to chase that, or would you do it for them?
No, we ask for their name and email address, and then we will contact them on your behalf. It's always easier if you let them know that we're going to be contacting them so that it sort of doesn't hold up the application process for you. But we will send them a reference form, which is just a simple form that they just need to complete.
Okay, brilliant. And what about the personal statement? How long does that need to be, and what should people talk about on the personal statement?
So there's no word limit to the personal statement, but you should be looking to write approximately 500 words. You really need to tell a story about yourself, a story about the work that you've undertaken in the past, your current management skills, explain what you're doing within the field that you've chosen. And you need to really explain to the university why you'd like to undertake the course, what you hope to gain for the qualification, and what your career plans or goals are.
Okay, brilliant. Um, if someone's not sure, they're kind of on the fence about applying, should they still go for it?
Absolutely. Still apply. You can always contact us in admissions as well, and we will discuss any concerns that you're having. We understand it is a big commitment for you. It is a big financial commitment as well. So you wouldn't want to undertake something without really looking into it. We're here to answer the questions. You can explain to us what your career goals are, your plans, what your background is, and then we can help you decide on which course is best suited for yourself.
Perfect. So someone's made a decision, they want to apply, they've filled in all the forms, they've got their references, they've done their personal statement, they've sent you all the documents. What happens at that point when they're all finished?
So once you've completed an application, we will have a look at it within the admissions team. If there's any further questions that we need, any further evidence, then we'll come back to you and explain exactly what we need. Once we're happy that the application is complete, then that will then go off to the University of Gibraltar and it will go to their review panel and then they make the final decision.
Okay. And if you get accepted?
If you're accepted, you can receive an unconditional acceptance letter, or you can receive a conditional acceptance letter. If you receive an unconditional, then it is what it says on the tin, and you've got an unconditional offer onto the course. If you've got a conditional offer, then it may be that they just need to see a little more of your management experience, or they may need to see an alternative qualification. And then once you've had your conditional offer, once you've provided the evidence that we need, that would then become unconditional. You would receive your acceptance letter via email, and we will let you know before we send that out, just in case it goes into the spam folder. And we will also telephone you as well to let you know that that's been sent.
And what about if I was rejected? Would I be able to apply again down the line when I've got a bit more experience?
You can do. If for any reason you are rejected, then you will receive feedback from us, advice and guidance onto what you can do next, the reasons why you've been rejected, and if it is due to sort of the lack of management experience within that field, then certainly once you've got more behind you, then certainly reapply.
Perfect. I think that's covered all of my questions, Lynsey. So thank you so much. That was really interesting and really useful. And if anyone wants to speak to Lynsey, when we send out our email following on from the session today, you'll be able to book in a call with her if you need to have that kind of more exploratory chat about your thoughts and concerns maybe about joining the course. So next up, we're going to speak to 3 of our MBA course academics. We've got tutors, Dr. Claire Holt and Jonathan Martin, and also our external quality assurance examiner, Dr. Anthony Samuel. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
And welcome. Oops, having a little technical issue. One moment. I knew this was going to happen at some point. Here we go. Okay. Perfect. Thank you all for joining us today. Much appreciated. I thought we'd just start out with finding out a little bit about each of you. So if you could really briefly just tell me a bit about yourself and your background, that would be great to start.
Do you want me to kick off?
Sorry. Go on, Claire.
Yeah, Claire, if you want, you go ahead first.
Okay, I'll start first. So very quickly, on completing my bachelor's degree, I worked for a while in hospitality before going into working in finance for a bit. Didn't suit me, and I decided I wanted to fulfill a long-term ambition, which was to become an air traffic controller. So a lot of my working career was actually as an air traffic controller, stint at Heathrow, stint at Farnborough, Luton, Birmingham, and which is where I learned a huge amount about organisational behaviour. Human behaviour, and things like strategy, investigation procedures, health and safety, risk assessments, so on and so forth. And about, gosh, it's probably 12 years ago now, I left air traffic and joined the academic world, initially on the admin side as a programme development manager. And then after a couple of years of doing that, I decided I actually wanted to expand my own knowledge and my own horizons, and hence why I started and committed on a PhD. Completed that a few years ago now, feels like a very long time ago. And since then, I've been working very much on the academic side of things, as well as doing some freelance work, especially for the NHS within the public sector. Included in that is Revenue and Customs, Prison and Probation Service, and also the odd little bit for private organisations, and one which I was very excited to take on was Emirates. So I started with Learner, I think it's coming up for 2 years ago now, working on the postgraduate diploma and MSc in Leadership and Healthcare. So that's me up to date.
Perfect. Jonathan.
Okay, certainly. I retired about 18 months ago, having worked mainly in the education sector for about 35 years. I did my degree initially when I left school and did my A-levels in economics. I taught in school for a little while and then in colleges. And for the last 20 years, I was in senior and middle management positions in colleges, finishing off as the deputy principal in a college. During my time in college, I was responsible for working on a project to bring sixth forms into the college. In other words, what's called in the UK a tertiary college. And then our college became part of a university. So I was also extensively involved in the governance and the strategic leadership around that as well. I've also done some teaching in HE as well. And I've got an MA degree in education, which I did through distance learning. So I am, quite familiar with distance and online learning. And I've done some work for Learner for the first time this year, teaching the leadership and organizational behavior module. And I absolutely loved every minute of it. It was superb. Really, really enjoyed it. I'm school governor in my spare time as well, and I enjoy that enormously too. And sort of hobbies and interests, I love sport, particularly football and cricket. I played football till I was 46, and then I retired because every time somebody kicked me, it hurt. And I'm also interested in cricket as well. And I love contrasts in life. I love gardening, I love flowers, and I've recently started to play the piano as well, which I thoroughly enjoy.
Keeping yourself busy in your retirement, Jonathan.
So that's
fabulous.
So I've been retired about 18 months, and I've done a little bit of consultancy work during that time as well.
Excellent. And Anthony, would you like to tell us a little about yourself?
Hi everyone. So I'm Dr. Anthony Samuel. I work at Cardiff University Business School, where I'm a senior lecturer in marketing and strategy. I have a personal interest in responsible business practices, and have published quite extensively, kind of over 20 academic papers in some leading journals, such as the Journal of Business Ethics, which is a Financial Times top 50 journal, and have recently done quite a lot of work with Forest Green Rovers Football Club, which are the world's greenest football team. I've been researching them to look at their ethics and their sustainable and responsibility practices. My role at Cardiff University is I deliver two modules extensively on executive MBA programs in marketing and in innovation management. So that brings me around to my role at Learner, where I'm an external examiner here. Basically, my responsibility, given my 20 years experience of higher education, is to ensure that the quality of delivery, the quality of assessment, and the quality of our tutors at Learner are all up to the standard required for higher education institutes in the United Kingdom, and are all actively engaged in developing a quality portfolio and delivering quality modules and assessment. To date, my overview has been very, very positive.
Good to hear.
I've witnessed some really good practice, and I'd just like to point out maybe one thing, that as an external examiner, I've also worked in various other universities in this type of capacity: Northumbria University, Bedfordshire University, and recently have just been approached by the University of Liverpool to do a similar role. But what I would like to emphasize here is something that I've seen that I would positively reinforce, and something that I think the organization should celebrate, looking from an external perspective, is the iterative learning that goes on between peers. That's something unique. So you don't only learn from the tutors, but the learning methodology is very much around you learning from each other, hence the 3 years experience that you bring along and into and actively engage in discussion with others. So what I particularly celebrate on this course when I write my reports is the combination of theory and practice is something to celebrate, and something that can help you develop your career. So yeah, so that's my role. Hopefully that kind of clarifies everything.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna put this question to Claire, I think. Mm-hmm. Claire, what do you think that students can sometimes struggle with at the beginning of the course?
I think, well, it's certainly something I struggled with 2 years ago when I first started as a tutor, and that is getting used to the whole way that Moodle works. So I do know that there's an element of getting used to it being not very, quite faceless. So it is very much a case of you log on to Moodle, you read the scenario, you read the input from the tutor, which is the course information. And then there's a task at the end of each scenario. You have 3 of those a week. So I think one of the big things is, one, getting used to the platform, finding their way around it, navigating around it, getting used to this posting your feedback to the task and putting your perspective forward and demonstrating your understanding of the theory or the scenario. I think also linked to that is the whole aspect of it not being in real time. It's a case of, when you post something, the tutor isn't always online at the same time as you to be able to respond immediately. All tutors will get back to you as soon as they can. And me personally, I always try and log on at least 2 or 3 times a day. So I am responding as soon as I can. But it isn't instantaneous. However, that doesn't stop you starting conversations with your peers. And that is where Anthony's already touched on that. Some of the very, very valuable learning can occur, is the sharing of experiences, the sharing of potentially applying or trying to think about this theory in practice and applying it into practice. And I think as well, for the tutors, that is where we also learn as much from the students as I think the students learn from us. I know that I've learned a lot from the students in how they share. Another aspect I think that they struggle to get used to is the fact that it is so flexible. It's time management, in the fact that you can do it anytime, any place, anywhere, so to speak, as long as you've got a good enough Wi-Fi and you've got it set up on your phone or your iPad or your whatever the portable device is that you're using. Now, I always say to students, I appreciate time is precious, and balancing an online distance learning program with your work, with your family, with your hobbies, with your interests, with just getting some time to relax, it can be a very, very, very fine line and a fine balance. But one of the things is if you have got some reading to do for one of the scenarios, is try and fit it in on a coffee break or a tea break, especially if actually work is quite stressful. As much as you may think it's not going to sink in, you'll be amazed at just scan reading something that you've been asked to read for a particular scenario or a particular week. It might just actually sink in. So I think one of them is getting used to the platform. Secondly is it's not instantaneous feedback, but it will be as prompt as we can be. And I think the third thing is that time management. Within the first couple of weeks, I find students do get themselves into a good routine and they do get used to it. But it does take time. But once you're in the swing of it, seriously, by 2 and 3, the learning and the experience and that connection that you have, and far more personal connection that you have with your peers, I think in comparison to going in and attending a lecture face-to-face in the university, it's a lot more personable.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much, Claire. And I think it's worth saying, and we're going to speak to our student support team a little bit later, and they're also there to help with those sort of struggles at the beginning, and we do have lots of things in place to kind of support with that. So my next question I'm going to put to Jonathan. How exactly do you teach when there's no lectures or seminars? How does that work?
I think Claire's touched on that very nicely, Kirsty, is through the academic forum, which is part of the platform. And the tutor will post a number of scenarios, normally contemporary scenarios, 2 or 3 times a week with some readings. The student will do the readings, will put some content on the platform, and then the tutor will respond. And as Claire said, I like to respond 2 or 3 times a day. I go on my computer, have a look to see if there are any responses. And some of the very best students, what they'll do is they'll directly answer the questions, but they'll do some additional readings as well. And then they'll post some content, and then they'll open up the discussion. They'll say to some of the other students, what do you think of this idea? Have you come up with this concept? Do you like this? And then we all learn from each other. There was a lovely example during the leadership and organizational behavior module. We were looking at teams and we were looking at group work. And one of the students posted, working in the health authority, he posted about the difference between teams and groups. And he said, one of the most difficult things I find is that my teams are constantly changing. And he said, some of the people in the team I've not met before, and it's really difficult to bond that team. And from that, there came a series of really, really good posts. I learned enormously from it as well. And there were some really useful readings that the others could take on board as well. So it's not just tutor and student, it's student and student that is equally important as well. And then there's also the reflective journal, where the student on a weekly basis has to really think about what they've learned in the week and how they can apply that in their professional practice and in their personal development. And that is a very, very useful tool. Developing those reflective skills is very much part of the course as well.
Okay, brilliant.
Sorry, Kirsty, just to add to the reflective journal, I actually find that in some cases, students have been able to do exactly what Jonathan has just said and reflect. It's almost like a form of informal coaching. And where as tutors as well, we can go back if they have struggled with something in particular, we can readdress it with them, but in a less public domain than the academic forum, but actually slightly more personally on the reflective journal section.
Excellent. I'm going to put my next question to Anthony. In your eyes, what makes a student really stand out on a course like this?
I think there's probably two things from my observation as the external. Firstly is the ability to critically evaluate theory in the context of practice. So hence the life stories and experiences that our students, that learner students bring to the forum are embedded and discussed in the context of some of the established theories that, say, for example, in business strategy, and some of the established models, or some of the established theories that Jonathan has been exploring, such as servant leadership. I know there was an active debate around how servant leadership, for example, in Jonathan's module, could be translated into other organizations, and some of the difficulties cultural-wise that some people would have embedded in that in their organization. So that generates a nice form of, I guess, what you could call iterative criticality. And what I mean by iterative criticality is this constant circle of learning that goes on between theory and practice that is then facilitated very, very well by the tutor. Yeah, so to sum it up, I guess, it's that ability to critically think of your own experiences in the context of some of the contemporary theories that are explored, but also the context of others as well. And that comes out and naturally emerges in the discussion forum. So yeah, so criticality, further reading, and the application of theory and practice is what I look for when I'm checking the quality of assessment.
Thank you. I guess this probably can go to any of you, so I'll pick Claire, and we'll keep going in this order. Claire, how much time do students need to dedicate to their course weekly?
I think, I mean, it's a tricky one because, again, I like to try and be empathetic with my students, bearing in mind workloads. And I think, especially when some of the students work in the healthcare domain at the moment with the COVID pandemic, it has been quite tricky. But I would actually suggest, and when it comes to time management, I do suggest that my students try and find at least half an hour a day minimum to be able to actually start some of the reading and actually, well, first of all, log on and see the scenario, maybe look at what other people have posted, to get the reading done and also make their contribution. If then on the back of that, they can then find the time to then do further readings and to source the further readings, which we do recommend and are provided on Moodle for the students, and that is great. It is a tricky one to say, but I would definitely say a minimum of half an hour a day. It's very evident as well that you can tell the students that have put in more time because they make the time to also just proofread their posts before they put them on. I appreciate sometimes it's a bit of a rush, but if it has been a bit of a rush just to get something out, maybe go back and post again and sort of elaborate. As Jonathan said, if you just want to start off by actually just looking, first of all, at the scenario and answering the question that's been posed, to then go back and revisit it later in the week, there is no harm in doing that at all. But I don't know whether or not Jonathan would agree, but if you can sort of manage that time so you have at least that minimum of half an hour a day, you will make some progress. Obviously, the better students will find more time and will dedicate more time, but it is something that is recommended you dip in and out of when you can you know, every day.
I think that's important, Claire. Otherwise, there's a danger the work can build up, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then it almost becomes unmanageable then. Yeah. Time management is a really important skill to develop from early on, isn't it, in the programme?
Yeah. Which is why I said one of the issues students do have is that first couple of weeks of getting the hang of it, getting hang of the routine. And I think, you know, making that time where you allot, maybe depending if you're a shift worker, if you're an NHS worker, for example, or, you know, even if you work in normal hours, let's say a normal day, and you've got that time that you can maybe factor in a lunch break, or in the evenings, that time where you've just put the kids to bed and you've just got half an hour that you can just log in, check in with things. And before you do try and switch your brain off before you go to bed. Obviously, I wouldn't want anyone doing anything too late into the evenings. We don't necessarily want people doing that and putting themselves under undue stress and pressure. But yeah, time management is a tricky one, but it's a flexible learning platform, which is why you can log in at various times in the day. And I find a lot of students describe it, and I don't know if Jonathan has had the same experience, but a lot of students describe it as quite cathartic to be able to delve into something that is still benefiting their experience, their knowledge bank, and, you know, practical wisdom in the workplace, but actually isn't directly related to the day job. So it's a cathartic moment to just have that bit of distraction in amongst the sort of the melee and craziness that goes on around us on a day-to-day basis.
I think that's a really good point. And sometimes they go off. I mean, some people, they might be interested in time management or motivational theory, and it might not be directly relevant to where they're working, but they will, and they'll pick up a whole host of readings in that particular area, share it with other people on the academic platform, and then we all learn from it. It's a great learning experience.
Brilliant. So I'm coming to the end of my questions now. Jonathan, what do you think are the main skills and sort of knowledge sets that students will leave the course with?
Well, apart from obviously the academic knowledge picked up from the modules, and I think reflection is really, really important. And that ability, and Anthony and Claire both said that, to apply theory to practice. What have you learned from this? How can you apply this? What new tools have you learned to enable you to progress in your career in the future? Critical reading skills, the ability to read widely as well, and to answer questions directly as well. And that's very important on the academic platform as well. And I think the other thing, to work under pressure, because sometimes, you know, you're busy in work, you've got work to do with learner on the program. Time is precious. Managing your time and being able sometimes to work under pressure to finish things on time as well. And I think that skill of reflection is really, really important. Deep reflective skills, building that up in your journal on a weekly basis. And for me, that's what makes the learner program very unique, I think.
Yeah, to add to that, I do know, Jonathan, that some of the students that have grasped the benefits of reflective journal writing on the diplomas that I've tutored and on the masters, the MScs I've done, I know that they have now made it common practice. So even though it's now not part of a course, I do find that some of them post the course, now they've qualified, have got their diploma or their masters, they're actually now doing it as part of their routine on a weekly basis, looking back at the week, looking back at what has happened, what could they have done better, what could they have done differently, what worked well, and why did it work well? So all those questions are great to sort of to look at. And I think one of the other tools as well, just to add to, you know, I agree with everything Jonathan said, but another thing that I know that students have fed back to me is that doing a course like this provides you with not just the theories and the tools to be applied into practice to make you better understand practice, but it also gives you an element of a professional language. And I think that some of the student feedback that I've received has been that this language of being able to use motivational theories more confidently, strategic theories and frameworks and models more confidently, has done that, just that. It has built their confidence to feel more able to contribute in meetings, in planning meetings, in leadership meetings, maybe chairing a meeting, which they never thought they would be able to do before. And there's all of these type of skills, which I think we don't really realise we need until we have been given the opportunity or created that opportunity to have them.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. Anthony, I'm going to go to you with my last question, and you did touch on this slightly earlier, but what do you think makes Learner's MBA course stand out and differentiates it from the very many other MBA courses on the market at the moment?
I think we've lost Anthony.
Yeah, I think we've lost him. We have with the connectivity, Kirsty.
No
Yeah.
problem. Can either of you answer that question for us?
Yeah, by all means. For me, it's the academic forum.
Mm.
The opportunity to learn through the postings that you make, through the readings, through having the tutor to put the scenarios in there of contemporary issues. That doesn't normally happen in the same way in a traditionally taught lectured course. And again, as Claire so aptly said, the reflective part of it, really, really important as well. I think the academic forum is an absolutely superb idea. And when you get used to the platform, you will find it very, very easy.
Mm. Yeah,
perfect.
It's a very intuitive platform to use. And I think one other thing is that with the activities that you do, the way that we will also assess, so you're assessed not just on your contributions to the academic forum, but there are also a group activity or individual activities that are given each module. And I do know that when we as tutors and module planners, module leaders, try to put these activities together, we try to make them practical and real. We try and make them so you're putting, let's say, a presentation together to present to the board, or we're trying to do it that you're designing an information poster, or you're putting together a social media article, or a peer-reviewed, or maybe a practitioner's magazine article. We try and make it so your application of the learning, each module, is relevant to your real world. We're trying not to sort of make it too artificial or too theoretical. We're trying to make it real, I suppose, is how we can sort of say it. And I think that stands out compared to other courses that I've worked on at other academic institutions.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, both. And Anthony, who unfortunately has had to shoot off to another engagement, I think. I think we've kind of run out of time there, but I'm sure we'll have some questions to come back to you with at the end. I can see there's a few questions in the Q&A already. So next up on the agenda, we're going to speak to Helen Davis. And Helen is currently a student with Learner on our healthcare EMBA programme.
Hi, Kirsty.
Hi, Helen. Lovely to see you.
And you.
Thank you for joining us today and taking the time out.
Oh, no, that's a pleasure.
First things first, I was wondering if you could tell us just a little bit about yourself and your background, Helen.
Okay, so I've been a senior manager working in the medical education publishing industry for a number of years. So for 15 years, experience of leading teams in London and in Cardiff, and working through team development, product management, and digital transformation of content. So that was my background. I didn't go to university at 18. I went straight into a full-time working career path, which developed me up to the level that I am currently. And so this opportunity to do an MBA, an executive MBA, was something that I really, really wanted to do for a long time, to validate the knowledge that I was gaining in my career, and kind of get a certificate, something to say, yes, I do actually know this, outside of the day-to-day work. So I did I achieved chartered manager status in 2018, and that was a lovely course. It was a face-to-face course with some online work attached to it. But then that gave me the push. I was thinking, no, okay, I can do a course, I can do some learning at this stage in my life. And so that's why I decided to apply for the executive MBA.
Oh, perfect. And can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to go for an online course, and why you decided to choose Learner for your executive MBA?
Yeah, okay, so it was perfect timing. I enrolled in September 2020. So and with the lockdown that we've currently got here in Wales, I live high up in the Welsh valleys. It was perfect for me. I've been doing the 7 to 7, not even the 9 to 5, but the long hours of commuting for a long time in my working career. And I've taken a break from that at the moment because I'm also in the sandwich generation. So I had lots of time that I wanted to spend with my family as well at home. So I had an opportunity to do that. And this course became available for me to apply to. So perfect timing, but it absolutely had to be remote for me. I did not want to be traveling far and going to a face-to-face course. I was really pleased that it was completely online. I felt a little bit uncertain to start, I have to say. Will I be able to interact with the students? I know how great the conversations and the discussions can be when you're in a classroom and you're working through the course. So the Chartered Manager course that I did a few years ago, that was all incredibly valuable conversation, even the conversations you have when you're on lunch or you're at a coffee break. Was I going to be able to get that experience online? But what I found is, yes, we can do that. The group that I'm in is fantastic. But what I also would never have thought that I would have had is the reach of the group that I have. So we are living in different continents and at different time zones. And so that conversation is so much broader than it would have been if I was with a group of managers, maybe in Cardiff, and we would have all had nice perspectives, but they would have been quite similar. And now it's so enriched because we're getting such a good conversation from lots of different scenarios. So I didn't expect that going in. So that's a definite benefit of the online element of the course.
Brilliant. You've kind of covered a little bit of my next question there. I was going to ask you, but that's okay. It's perfect. Okay. Whether online learning was kind of what you expected. So I think you've kind of covered that. But have you got any tips for new students starting out with us?
Yes, no. I felt that I was quite used to online learning platforms as I've developed them, I've put content onto them, and I've worked in the back end of them for a long time. And so coming as a student and seeing it from the front end was very important for me to see what that experience was like. And I have to say that the study skills section that Learner have put together for all of the students who are signing up for the course, and when I signed up to it myself, it's really, really good. It's really, in human terms, it's really easy to understand. And there's great videos where the tutors and some of the support team talk you through just the very basics of getting used to the course. And as Claire was saying a little earlier on, at first module, everybody kind of fumbles through and gets used to the various levels of engagement that are needed and just the functions of the course. But for a Moodle platform as it is, the MBA, the eMBA is on Moodle, and it's a very good version. And the team behind there are, sort of taking all of the feedback from their students on board and putting that back into the development of the course.
It's about to be updated, which is and improved, which is hence there was no point really doing a demo of it today because it's not going to look like that by the time these students start. So look out for that, Helen, because it's about to have another big update.
That's great. I'm living through an update. That's even better. So it's great to can see those changes coming. As it stands, it's very, very intuitive. It's nice and easy to use. And Jonathan was talking about the academic forum. It really is a good area to be able to keep up with the fellow students on there. So my top tip for students: please work your way through the study skills section. Test yourself at the end. There's a test that you can do to make sure that you've watched all the bits. Do that. It really gets you used to it, because then when you're into your first module and you have your first scenario, you just want to get going with it, and you really can with the instructions that are in there.
Amazing, thank you. So what do you think's been the biggest challenge for you? We've talked about all the good stuff. What do you think's been the biggest challenge for you with studying for your MBA, and kind of how have you overcome that?
Yeah, well, there really hasn't been too many challenges. I was my personal abilities a challenge, always trying to think of my lack of academic experience. Would I be able to keep up with the essay writing or the various tasks that were being given? Would I be able to engage fully with fellow students on the course if they'd come from a very academic background rather than a working background like myself? Would we be able to have enough in common and be able to have those exchanges? So those are the only things that I had slight trepidation going into the course, but none of that has come to any truth at all. It really is a contemporary course, as Jonathan was saying, and it applies back to normal daily business, scenarios and business interactions that you would have in a workplace. So even if you haven't had any work experience, you're going to find that the content really does apply into it. So I was completely reassured almost instantly. My first module, my first scenario, and I was thinking, no, all of the things that I was worrying about, it really isn't there. It's really a good course, and anybody at that level can dip into it without any problems.
Brilliant.
So yeah, no challenges. That's boring. I should have thought something else, but otherwise,
no, that's great.
Really,
your own kind of
really not.
self-doubt is a challenge that you've overcome, so that's perfect. And I think it's something that many of us struggle with as well. So that's really good to hear, Helen.
Okay.
You did mention this earlier. Have you had a chance to speak to and chat to other students much and build a relationship with them?
Oh yeah, so the good thing is you're thrown into it at the start, so it's always good to get an icebreaker and something that needs to get the students together. We're quite a small group, but I'm doing the MBA in healthcare management. We're a small group, and as Claire described, there is such a challenge on anybody working on the front line of healthcare at the moment, because they are right there fighting the COVID issues around the world, actually. So there's the fellow students on my course really are at the front line, and say I'm not working on the front line of healthcare. I've always come from it from a different side of it, but understanding the pressures that they are under and admiring their abilities to continue to do their own personal development in their own time has been fantastic. So the group activity that you have that we had in module 1 made us all get together. We had to assign a group leader between us. We had to decide, and at that point you're only seeing names on a list, on the Moodle platform, so you don't really know who's who. And who would want to be leader? What do we say to each other? How do we make this work? And so we set up a WhatsApp group right at the very beginning, and you can see each other then face to face. So we did a live video call, and we called each other by WhatsApp. We're in different time zones, we're in different sort of continents. So something that was nice and easy, but that's really helped. And just talking, just in the same way as we are now, really makes a difference. You're not just a name on the page. You really can interact with your fellow students. So we've kept that group going, and we've found various ways to message each other. There's a messaging platform on the system itself, which is really nice and easy, and you get notifications when people have sent you a direct message. But you can't quite, I don't know, it might be one of the updates is coming, but you can't quite do a group call on that one. You just do one-to-one, which is great. So we've just gone sort of offline and gone into another platform. So we're on WhatsApp, which everybody sort of knows and uses. There's other platforms available, but that's the one that we've used to get together. So yeah, so lots of interaction, and I think it's really important, just the human interaction and the sort of support that you can give peer to peer. If you're struggling with something on the course, we've certainly done that. It's away from the tutors, so we don't have to sort of fess up that we don't know something. We can share that with each other. But then also the day-to-day, and time elements and the struggles of the current pandemic has really sort of taken its toll on some of the students. So being able to support and just to talk that through has been really lovely as well. So yeah, I do feel like I know the other people on my course, which is fantastic. I've never met them face to face. Yeah.
So my last question for you, Helen, what would you say to someone or the people here who are thinking about applying but they're not quite sure yet?
Well, don't think twice. I think that for the level of content that you've got on the course, and for the quality of the tutor interaction that we're having, and the other people that you're going to find on the course alongside you, that it's superb value for money for the fees that you pay for this course in comparison with other executive MBA courses around that I have looked. I've looked for some time at the different courses that are available to me. This is superb value for money, and it's achievable in very tight work time scales. And as myself, have taken a break from the office work, but I'm still able to find the time to be able to do this and to feel like I'm engaged in a real learning group. So yeah, don't think twice. Join up, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I enjoyed it from the first scenario in the first module, and I'm on module 3 now, so it feels like I'm already halfway through, which is amazing. Yeah, looking back to module 1, scenario 1, I was hooked straight away. So don't think twice about it. Sign up.
Brilliant. That's a great place to finish. Thank you so much, Helen, for your time.
Okay, thank you, Kirsty.
Okay, so, and last but very much not least, we are going to meet Alessia from our wonderful student services team.
Hi, Kirsty.
Hello, Alessia.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Can you tell us a little bit about student services and what your role is within the team and kind of who else is on that team?
Yeah, absolutely. So student services, we are central to assisting the student engagement on the MBA courses. So we're here to facilitate the smooth running of your studies and to ensure you receive the best possible learning experience with us. So for me as a student services officer, along with Jazz, Oliver and Alexandra, we prioritise student satisfaction. So we aim to ensure your well-being by monitoring each student's progress throughout the course and by resolving queries and concerns efficiently, typically usually by email, but we are also happy to chat over the phone. Then you have Emma. She is our senior student services officer. So that makes her the go-to to make sure we're offering our students all that we can to aid the learning experience. And then Robin is the head of student services. Often we'll find her amongst many a spreadsheet to ensure the smooth running of the course and that all of our processes are on schedule.
Perfect. And so what kind of things do you typically help students with?
So much. We deal with an array of different queries, but basically we can offer basic technical assistance such as helping you enroll, accessing the online library and navigating the Moodle platform. Most importantly, we're here to support you if you're struggling or falling behind on the course due to challenging circumstances. So it's really important that you don't bury your head in the sand during these times. So you must contact student services as soon as you can so we can guide you through flexible options which might be suitable for you. You can also raise concerns about the course itself, though we would recommend you primarily contact your tutor about the specifics of your course content. But if you're unsure, feel free to come to us first.
Okay, brilliant. So a few people have mentioned today, we've got students all over the world in different time zones. So how does that work with you guys? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, good question. So we are available from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. UK time, Monday to Friday. For urgent queries, we highly recommend that students in different time zones look up the time difference and either call us between the hours that I've mentioned, or better still, you can book a telephone appointment for a time that's suitable for us to call you. That's where a member of student services will allocate up to half an hour over the phone to speak with you and resolve your query there and then. Alternatively, all students can email us and we'll aim to respond to you as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can.
Perfect. We've talked a lot today about the online learning platform, but can you tell me just a little bit more about how students are actually assessed on the course?
Yeah, totally. And I know we have discussed this quite a lot, but it doesn't hurt to hear it again, I guess. But students are assessed by the combination of 3 essential components. They're individually weighted and graded to produce your results for each module. So these components are the famous academic forum. So this is weighted at 60% of your grade. So this is where each week your group is presented with a series of scenarios with associated discussion prompts. So they're designed to promote discussion of a specific topic. Then you have the module activity, which is weighted at 30%. So the module activity component takes the form of either a group assignment or an individual assignment. So group activities are designed to test group dynamics and embrace multidisciplinary approaches, while individual activities are designed to help develop your postgraduate level academic writing and assessing. Then you have the reflective journal. So that's weighted at 10%. The purpose of your reflective journal is to articulate your expectations, learning journey, and practical application of your new knowledge. So methodologies for this component are discussed in detail in the study skills module anyway. Then finally, you've got your capstone project. So this is your final assessment with an additional 60 credits, which is aimed at consolidating students learning through their executive MBA programs. So this gives students the opportunity to apply the theoretical knowledge obtained to compile a comprehensive report about an area of interest, which can take place either within your own workplace setting or for a company of your choosing. So you will get to see all of this when we send you the demo of the brand new updated version of Moodle as well. And also when you join the course, you will be invited to a full week of study skills. So this will take you through literally everything I've just mentioned.
Perfect. I think that covers all of my questions for you today, Alessia. So thank you very much.
No problem.
I can see that we have a few questions. So we're going to take some time now to run through those, as many as we can. But if you do think of any questions after we finish today, then feel free to give us a ring. Our number's on the website, or drop us an email. I'd be happy to help. So let's have a look at the questions we've got. Okay, the first person has asked, is there a graduation that I can come to, or do we just get sent a certificate at the end? Alessia, are you able to answer that for us?
I can. So there is a graduation just at the moment with regards to the pandemic. This is proving very difficult. So anyone who studied over the last year has not had a graduation. So with those having been postponed, once the world does open up back up again and we can have those, then those will happen, but there's a little bit of a backlog, so we will keep you updated on that, but you will get your certificate above anything else, and we keep you updated on the graduation ceremonies then.
Brilliant, thank you, Alessia.
No problem.
Someone here came on a little bit late and missed some of the comments about the required experience to qualify for the course. So Lynsey, are you able to go through that again briefly, please?
Yep. So typically, our students will have an undergraduate degree with a minimum classification of a 2-1 and have a minimum of 3 years managerial experience. If you don't meet the typical entry requirements, but you have extensive managerial experience behind you, so we're looking at 10 years plus, then you can still apply for the course, and you may be asked to undertake an assessment to show that you're capable of working to the level 7 qualification.
Okay, brilliant. Stay there, Lynsey, because I'm going to put this next one to you as well. Someone's asked, can I get a student loan to cover the course fees?
Unfortunately, there's no student loan that you can apply for to cover the course fees, but we do offer payment plans to help you spread the cost of the course. So it's always worth contacting us, and then we can provide further information on how we're able to assist you with funding the course.
I think as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you wanted to take out just a normal bank loan rather than a loan through student finance, you can do that. And we have a scheme whereby we can help you with the interest payments for those. So it's worth talking to our finance team about that if it's of interest. Okay, the next question, someone has asked, are there any exams at all? I'll put that to Claire. Do the students have exams?
There's no exams in terms of the MBA. It's all done through the academic forum and the reflective journal, and as Alessia said as well, the individual or group activity. So some modules you'll get a group activity where you have to demonstrate the ability to work together, and it's the same then as well with your individual activity. So Alessia's taking you through that, but there's no formal examination. It is all done purely through academic and assessment, the academic forum and assessment.
Okie dokie. Someone's asked, what are the employability rates in various organisations after completing the course? I don't know if Lynsey might be able to answer that one. Do you know the answer to that one, Lynsey?
And it might be
better coming from sort of one of the tutors to see what you can sort of go into. They're generally our typical students at sort of middle management, and they're looking to progress into more senior roles.
Yeah, so
as for sort of the actual sort of routes they take, it may be better.
Yeah,
From one of the tutors, it's quite difficult.
What I can say is in general, not necessarily this MBA program, but generically, MBA programs across the board and people that undertake MBAs, they do usually find that the percentage of people that then go for a more senior position or go for further development is usually between that 60 and 70% success rate in terms of completing your MBA and then looking for the next step in your career progression, whether it's within the same organisation or another organisation. Some organisations will sponsor you and will help pay, so back to this payment plan, whether or not you self-fund or whether or not you can persuade the organisation to sponsor you. However, if you have organisational sponsorship for your own professional development, potentially for the next step in your career within an organisation, you may find that they might do some form of legally binding. So in other words, once you've completed your MBA, you probably have to stay with that organisation for a certain number of months or a couple of years, depending on what that agreement is. So they ensure that they get sort of value for money back from your learning and your education. In terms of our MBA, because it is still fairly new, we don't have that exact data yet. Although what I do know is we're looking at that data for our other postgraduate diploma and master's programs. In terms of the leadership in healthcare, I can actually say that the first cohort out of the students that we had, I do know of 3 that got pretty much promotion within 6 months of completing the postgraduate diplomas. I know that because they asked me to write references for them. So it's that sort of thing that I do know that this formalizing your development in an academic way like this does add so much to, as we were saying earlier, Jonathan and I, in terms of your confidence, the language, the theories, the critical thinking, being able to sort of be innovative in other ways that maybe you hadn't thought of before can make a huge difference to that next career progression and development.
I think Claire's raised a particularly important point there. It's that ability to use that knowledge in the work situation, isn't it? And if you were applying for a job or applying for a promotion, you've got all that body of knowledge where you've been able to link the theory to practice and those reflective skills to help you in that interview situation. And the fact that you've been working under pressure to get the qualification as well, that's a huge asset as well. Those time management skills and the ability to work under pressure as well.
The final project as well, you will find you will learn so much about project management, but you may have managed projects in your workplace, you may have a Prince 2 project management qualification, but actually then being able to say that you've managed an individual project at the level of an MBA program as well, that is also something that can really, really help with that interview situation and demonstrating career progression.
Brilliant, thank you very much. You've got a couple more questions about covering payments, and I think it is just worth saying that we do offer interest-free payment plans ourselves, or as I said, if you were to get a loan from a bank to cover it, if you aren't able to pay the fees up front yourself, then that's another route, and it's worth speaking to our admissions and our finance teams to work that out. And as Claire mentioned, the final thing is looking to speak to your current employer about the possibility of them sponsoring you through, which is the route that some of our students do take.
Sorry, Kirsty, just to add to that in terms of the employer sponsorship, there is something as well that I think Helen very, very rightly touched on with regards to this MBA in comparison to others. Because it is purely online, it's not just flexibility, it's also affordability. You're not losing anything in terms of quality. If anything, you're probably gaining a different, more embellished experience in the way that this one's designed. And I know that Anthony, Jonathan, and I and Helen have all touched on that. But I think the other thing that comes from this is this idea of affordability. I have worked on MBA programs at some business schools where I do know that to do one of the really, really high level MBAs, for example, Warwick Business School, Said Business School, Cass Business School, you're looking at £25,000 for an MBA. And upwards, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So in terms of this one, because it is online and we're not paying the overheads of an academic institution, you are paying for an MBA, you are paying for an MBA learning experience. You're not paying for a brand, you're paying for the knowledge and the wealth of knowledge and experience that we share. And as Anthony has said, for it to be a recognised accredited MBA programme, we are hitting every single aspect that is recognised across the board for MBA accreditations. And so I think in terms of going and negotiating some form of sponsorship to progress yourselves with an MBA, this one is certainly a good negotiating bargaining chip in the fact that it is realistically affordable in comparison to others without losing the quality of an MBA.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you, Claire. And it's definitely something we talk about with students a lot. We don't have the bricks and mortar of a humongous university building in terms of our overheads to cover. We don't have an enormous team of thousands of staff to cover. However, it is a proper university and ILM accredited course. Some of the less expensive options online are not. So, you know, when you're doing your research, when you're looking at different exec MBAs, certainly make sure that your course is university validated so that you will get that proper MBA certificate from a university that's internationally recognised. I think that is most of the questions covered. We've covered payment, employability rates. Does this course help in getting employment in different parts of the world or in the UK only? Again, Claire, I think you might be able to answer this because it's definitely a worldwide recognised qualification.
Yeah, MBAs are recognised globally, and this one as well is particularly international in the fact that, as Helen said, members on her course, I know that there's a colleague in Canada, there's a colleague in South Africa, there's a colleague in Malta. So immediately you've got an international perspective automatically been drawn in. So I think as well, one of the experiences that you will gain from this is we're not just teaching you and we're not just expecting you to learn a British way of doing things. We're not expecting you to learn it that way. Yes, we will talk about the UK business and the way theories and models apply to businesses in the UK, but that is where learning from each other is so valuable. And hence, Jonathan and I both admitted we learn as much from our students. I've got students from the Caribbean, including the Cayman Islands, Trinidad. I've got students in Australia, Zimbabwe, Uganda, South Africa, you name it. They're all over the world, in the Middle East. And I am learning from all of them, constantly learning.
One of the fascinating things for me, Claire, was to see how the health service is structured in different countries. The approach in Canada is entirely different to what it is in South Africa. I learned an enormous amount from that. It's really exciting. Yeah.
And, you know, on another course, for example, I've got students in the Middle East working in Bahrain versus work in healthcare versus the NHS. And of course, it's the private healthcare system in the Middle East versus the public system. And it's so interesting to sort of learn about how the staff can work and are allowed to work over there versus here in the UK. And it's fascinating, which I think makes this even more valuable for international promotion outside of the UK, not just within the UK. It provides you with, what is it? There's the philosophical poet Dante, a great quote from him is, you can only get experience from experience, you can only gain knowledge from knowledge. And I think that is something that really does come across in this program, is that being international, being online, being so interpersonal with each other, you can gain so much of that knowledge from knowledge and experience from experience.
Excellent, thank you, Claire. I'm going to keep with you, Claire, because the next question's for you. Someone's asking about the MSc in healthcare management. What's the accreditation for that? So that's a university accredited MSc,
yes, it's a university accredited MSc through the University of South Wales. So that programme involves the 6 modules, which automatically on completion and pass, you get the postgraduate diploma. And then it moves on into the second year, so, well, 6 months, another 18 months for your dissertation, where you then undertake the module 1, which is research methods. Then module 2 is your professional proposal and your professional dissertation for submission.
Great, thank you, Claire. And I think our very last question that I think I missed a little bit higher up the screen was someone asking where they can get access to the reading materials. and they are all on the Moodle learning platform. Is that right? So once they apply, get accepted, and pay the deposit and become a full student, they will then get access to Moodle and all of the resources in the library through that.
Yeah, so for the exec MBA, they'll also have a link to be able to access online reading materials from the University of Gibraltar, if I'm right. I think Alessia will correct me if I'm wrong on that, but they'll also have access to that. But any readings that are essential readings, any readings that are absolutely part of what we are talking about each week, we will make sure are fully available on Moodle as well. So everyone will have access to that. The access to the library online, and also everyone, we can use Google Scholar. That's a really, really valuable tool to use. And through Google Scholar, there are papers that are publicly available on there. You don't have to be a member of a library institution to access some of those. So if you are interested in a specific subject and you use the search engine Google Scholar and put in a subject area you might be interested in, if it's a PDF publicly available, you can do some reading around on that. But in terms of the courses, absolutely, we make sure that either the university has it or we'll make sure it's available for you on Moodle.
Thank you very much. I think that's about all we've got time for today. I'd like to first say a massive thank you to all of our panelists and for giving up the time to talk to me today. And thank you to everyone who's attended and who is watching this back on record as well. Our deadline for applications is fast approaching. So if you are looking to apply for one of our exec MBAs to start in March, I'd strongly suggest you submit that application now, as our places do fill up, and we don't want you to be sort of disappointed. Lynsey, as she mentioned earlier, is absolutely more than happy to book a call with you individually and take you through that process. As an additional thank you, we'd like to offer everyone who has attended today £150 discount off your course, off the fees, should you decide to apply to the March 2021 cohort. And we'll send details of that discount along with the recording of the webinar to you later by email. So thank you very much, and best of luck with your application.